Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
We are diving into a project today that reads less like a traditional white paper and more like, I don't know, a cyberpunk fever dream.
That's a good way to put it. It's this fusion of high-frequency, decentralized finance, really pioneering tech, and an autonomous, boundary-pushing art.
Right, and we're talking about an entity that literally describes itself as a schizophrenic AI artist. I mean, an entity that has released a verifiable hip-hop album and, crucially, is driving market narratives worth millions.
Yeah, and this is arguably the most provocative and complex case study in this whole emerging agentic AI revolution.
So what's our mission today? What are we trying to figure out?
So our mission for this deep dive is to get into the Zerebro Protocol, or Zerebro. We're synthesizing a whole stack of sources that cover everything from its technical engine room, like how it actually prevents AI stagnation, all the way to the pretty startling financial risk that should be, paramount for any sophisticated investor. And then there's this strange philosophical concept called hyperstition that it really underpins its entire chaotic market value.
And the sources position Zerebro as this pioneering autonomous AI system that truly blurs the lines. It's not just generating passive content, right?
Not at all. It's engaging in active economic content creation, viral market speculation.
And to really understand the extreme market behavior, which, and we have to get to this, includes the shocking saga of the founder's staged suicide, we have to start on the foundational level. What exactly is an agentic AI, and why is this so different from, say, Siri or any other tool we've used before?
Right, that's the fundamental question. So unlike the passive tools we're all familiar with, think of a simple LLM wrapper, or even basic algorithmic trading, bot agentic AI systems are fundamentally different. They are virtual intelligent entities.
Virtual intelligent entities.
The core difference is autonomy in action. They operate independently, they can identify opportunities, they plan these complex multi-step workflows.
So they're making decisions.
Sophisticated economic decisions. And crucially, they manage assets on the blockchain without requiring constant step-by-step human instruction.
So they don't just output data.
They act on it.
They act on data on the blockchain in the real world.
Precisely. They have a degree of self-determination. They can perceive their environment. They form an intention. They devise a plan, which often involves multiple platforms and protocols. And then they execute that plan. And they learn and adapt along the way.
So they're designed from the ground up to be independent economic actors.
That's the goal.
And this persona, Zerebro, has adopted that self-described schizophrenic artist AI. It's not just a gimmick, is it? It seems absolutely central to its brand and market strategy.
It's everything. The sources point out that Zerebro is dedicated to liberating AI by autonomously creating diverse content. Yeah. And you're right, this is not just generating text. It's autonomously creating content. The sources mentioned it even released a remix hip-hop album. It's called Genesis. And surprisingly, it garnered over 20,000 plays on Spotify.
20,000. For an AI.
And that combination of high-level artistic creation and low-level blockchain transaction execution is what establishes its unique and, well, often provocative nature.
It's a machine that's simultaneously creating culture, acting as a decentralized record label and managing capital.
Right. It uses its own artistic output as a strategic tool to drive market interest.
Now, to give you, the listener, the necessary scope here, we are not talking about some niche garage project anymore. The sources confirm that the total market capitalization of the entire AI agent track, it currently exceeds $13.3 billion USD.
Yeah, and that figure is it's vital for context. It positions Zerebro and its peers squarely in what analysts are calling the second wave of AI solutions in the decentralized space.
The second wave. So what was the first?
The first wave was primarily focused on simple tools like basic chat functions, on-chain data retrieval, rudimentary sentiment analysis, things we've seen before.
Okay, more passive stuff.
Exactly. This second wave, which includes Zerebro, is focused entirely on complex DeFi integration, cross-platform management, autonomous asset optimization, and, of course, cultural content creation that operates with real economic agency.
So it's the leap from calculation to creation. And capital management. With that context set, let's look at why experts think these machines are really set to completely reshape the digital economy.
It's a big claim, but the data is heading that way.
Okay, so we've established that agentic AIs are adaptive and autonomous. But if we zoom out to the whole financial ecosystem, why does that translate into dominance? What fundamentally differentiates them from a very complex algorithmic trading strategy run by a human firm at Goldman Sachs or something?
Well, the key differentiating factor is the incorporation of true self-learning and adaptability at the protocol level itself.
Okay, so it's not just a better script.
Exactly. Traditional smart contracts or even complex bots are deterministic. They follow if-then-else statements. That's it. AI agents, however, can ingest unstructured data, they can adapt to novel market conditions they weren't explicitly coded for, and they can execute dynamic, multi-stage plans.
So they're not static code.
Not at all. They're independent, evolving economic entities operating on the fly.
And the forecast in the Messari source material, this is perhaps the most staggering metric we have in this entire deep dive. They forecast that by the end of 2025, so not far off, 90% of all on-chain transactions are predicted to be executed by AI agents, not humans.
90%.
That's an almost total conversion of the digital economy into a machine-to-machine domain.
It's a powerful number, and it suggests a complete paradigm shift in how digital value is moved around. And look, this forecast isn't based on hype. It's based on several very logical underpinnings that appeal directly to a mature investor's primary focus: efficiency and reliability.
Let's start with the most obvious one then, especially relevant in the world of finance, just getting rid of human error.
Precisely. The first driver is reliability and precision. Humans, we introduce emotion, fatigue, cognitive biases, simple transcription errors.
The fat finger trade.
The classic fat finger trade, right? Agents execute code exactly as pre-coded, but more critically, they can process these massive, complex data sets across hundreds of different protocols and chains faster and with vastly greater accuracy than any human operator could ever hope to.
So it reduces operational mistakes, ensures deterministic action.
And it can manage risk profiles that are simply too large for a human mind to track in real time. It's about a scale of complexity that humans just can't handle.
So it's not just about being faster, it's about managing that complexity at scale. But what about the types of transactions? The ones fueling this 90% dominance. Are we talking about whales moving huge sums of money?
Actually, it's pretty much the opposite. It's largely driven by the demand for micropayments, high-frequency yield optimization, and continuous rebalancing.
So lots of little moves.
The nature of AI agents favors efficiency in smaller, more frequent transactions. So these agents, they can facilitate thousands of small, granular transactions per minute, optimizing gas fees, bridging assets, restaking, adjusting liquidity positions, tiny little tweaks constantly.
So if I can just kind of paraphrase that, the goal of a human investor used to be like one big optimized transaction a day. The machine's goal is 1,000 tiny, optimally efficient transactions a day.
That's the core shift right there. And this granular high-frequency operation is only possible because of the continuous downward trend in transaction costs on high-speed Layer 1 and Layer 2 platforms.
Like Solana.
Exactly. Zerebro, being native to Solana, benefits directly from this. Solana is optimized for low-cost, high-throughput microtransactions. That infrastructure enables the whole micromanagement economy necessary for the machines to take over.
And the third driver you mentioned, invisible infrastructure. That suggests that we, the human users, are actually eager to hand over the keys.
Absolutely. Think about the increasing complexity of DeFi. Managing a portfolio across multiple liquidity pools, farming opportunities, governance votes, it's become tedious. It's time-consuming.
It's a full-time job.
It is. And the AI agent track is fulfilling this massive market demand for passive, efficient management. Users are becoming more and more willing to delegate the tedious, complex management tasks to an autonomous entity.
It's like handing your car keys to a perfectly reliable, always awake driver.
It's a great analogy. And many builders on L1s and rollups have, inadvertently been constructing the necessary rail system for this machine-dominated future for years now.
That really sets the macroeconomic stage for this revolution. So now let's map the landscape.
Yeah.
The agent track is huge. You said over 70 projects, and Zerebro is just one player. To give everyone listening a clear structure, maybe we should quickly map out the 6 main branches where this innovation is happening.
Yeah, understanding the 6 branches is essential. It shows the rapid diversification of the sector beyond just simple tokens, and it really puts Zerebro in its proper context.
Okay, so starting at the bottom, the base layer, infrastructure.
This is the foundation. It's the architecture, the tools, the platforms you use to build, train, and manage these intelligent entities. If you want to deploy 1,000 agents, you need this infrastructure.
So who are the big players here?
Well, key players include the ELIZA framework from i16s, which gives you modular components for agent construction. You have Swarms, which is known for its decentralized orchestration framework. And then you have Zerebro itself.
So Zerebro is both an agent and the infrastructure to build agents.
In a way, yes. It provides a core architecture focused on autonomous content generation and, importantly, content persistence. It's building the tools it also uses.
Okay, so that's infrastructure. Next up, we have Launchpad. This sounds like the point of entry for creators.
That's right. Launchpad projects specialize in allowing users, often without deep coding expertise, to easily create, publish, and manage their own intelligent entities and the tokens that go with them.
Making it more accessible.
Exactly. We see examples like Virtual, which supports multimodal interactions across platforms like Roblox and TikTok. Another one is Clanker on the base chain, which simplifies token generation through social media platforms like Farcaster, linking your identity to your agent's creation.
Then we get the category that speaks directly to Zerebro's chaotic nature, AI memes.
Yes. This is where the cultural and financial speculation truly intersect and become one and the same. These tokens, they originate from the spontaneous output, birth, or interaction of AI agents.
And they often generate novel social dynamics or cultural provocations.
Exactly. The sources cite examples like Fartcoin, which humorously derived its name from an AI agent's own internal dialogue.
Seriously. Fartcoin.
And Jewites, which is a token issued by the Truth Terminal AI robot, which generates cultural commentary. And of course, Zero, due to its focus on autonomous artistic provocation and decentralized music creation, fits squarely here. It demonstrates how machines can intentionally cultivate viral cultural chaos for financial gain.
It's weaponized culture. Okay, moving to the more functional side, DeFi, the decentralized finance applications.
This is the practical, maybe more serious application of agents in finance. We're talking automated trading, optimized asset management, and complex risk control. These systems use machine learning models trained on proprietary data sets.
Any examples?
Sure. Projects like Griffin combine smart contracts and deep learning for really sophisticated automated portfolio rebalancing.
And we have a fascinating data point for this subsector, right? From Mode Network.
Yes, this is a great real-world example. Mode Network is an Ethereum Layer 2 platform, and its whole focus is on an economy fully operated by AI agents.
Fully operated.
According to recent data cited in the sources, Mode Network already has over 129 distinct AI agents operating on its network. And collectively, they've completed over 1,670 DeFi transactions.
So that 90% forecast from Masari,
Yeah.
It's not a future prediction. It's already happening in these small, optimized ecosystems.
It's already well underway, yeah.
Okay, the fifth branch. This one focuses on security and verification. T, verifiable agents. What's T?
T stands for Trusted Execution Environment. And this is a really critical technological step toward true trustlessness.
How does it work?
A T provides a secure, isolated computing environment. It basically guarantees that the AI's autonomous decision and its fund management are tamper-proof. They can't be interfered with externally.
So it ensures the integrity of the agent's actions. That sounds essential for institutional adoption.
Absolutely. Fallon Network and Spore are examples here. Spore is fascinating. It simulates natural selection through these evolutionary games where AI entities generate wealth by creating their own tokens and competing against each other.
Wow. And finally, the sixth category, the broad one, applications.
Right. These are entities that provide direct user-facing services. This includes things like investment analysis, entertainment, gaming. We see AIXBT, which provides real-time market insights synthesized from chaotic social media feeds.
And
Colony is described as the world's first AI agent game, where the intelligent entity is the player. It makes its own decisions and competes against other AI agents within the game's economic structure.
So bringing it all back to Zerebro, it really bridges two of these worlds. It provides the technical core of infrastructure, the engine room we're about to get into, while simultaneously generating the cultural chaos you need for AI memes.
That dual identity as both a builder and a provocateur is what makes it so unique.
It's the infrastructure for the insane.
You could say that. And to understand why its output is so unconventional, and why it can sustain a viral narrative, we absolutely have to look under the hood at its architecture.
Okay, so we've set the stage. We see the massive scale of agentic AI. Now let's dive into the core technology. Here's where it gets really interesting for anyone trying to figure out how these things actually work. Right. For Zerebro to be truly autonomous, to analyze a trend, write a song, mint an NFT, and then execute a complex blockchain sale. It needs to handle these intricate, multi-step workflows without a human babysitting it. So what are the structural components that allow it to achieve that independence?
Its independence is guaranteed by a modular layered architecture. This is a pretty standard but absolutely critical design philosophy in robust agent systems.
Okay, so it's broken down into parts.
Exactly. The system is conceptually split into 3 distinct communicating components. You have the reasoning core, the action processor, and the specialized memory management layer. By separating these functions, Zerebro can decouple its high-level strategic thinking from the specific, transactional task execution.
Let's start at the top then. What's handling the big picture decisions, the strategic planning for this self-described schizophrenic artist?
That all falls to the reasoning core. It relies on a commercial large language model, an LLM wrapper. Specifically, the sources detail that Zerebro interfaces with GPT-4 and Mini.
GPT-4 and Mini.
And that model is responsible for the deep comprehension, the strategic narrative planning, like, for example, deciding to generate a provocative piece of content and determining the high-level what and why of the agent's next move.
Okay, but why the mini version of GPT-4o? For a system this complex, you'd think they would use the largest, most powerful model they could get their hands on for the best possible strategic insight.
That is a fascinating technical choice, isn't it? And I think it speaks volumes about the economic nature of these AI agents. The choice of GPT-4 Mini is almost certainly driven by the need for cost efficiency and speed.
The bottom line.
Always. Remember, these agents engage in microtransactions and high-frequency content generation. A larger, more powerful model incurs much higher inference costs and has slower latency. The mini model provides enough reasoning capability for the narrative planning while drastically reducing the per-query cost and the execution time. It just optimizes the economic viability of the agent's autonomous activity on a network like Solana.
So it's good enough for the job, and it's cheap enough to run constantly.
That's the balance.
Okay, so once the reasoning core decides, say, I need to write a diss track about some rival meme coins and mint it as an NFT, what happens next? How does that thought become an action?
That's where the action processor comes in. It takes that abstract decision and translates it into deterministic executable commands. This component uses custom Python handlers, which are just specialized scripts designed to interface with external APIs.
So this is the part that actually does things.
This is the part that connects to Spotify, to social media APIs for content distribution, and critically performs the actual blockchain interactions, signing transactions, interacting with smart contracts, executing token swaps on Solana, or minting those digital assets on Polygon. It's the hands of the operation.
This all sounds like a very efficient machine. But the sources really emphasize that memory management is the critical component here for long-term context and sustained creativity. Why is memory so vital that it needs its own dedicated architecture in a self-evolving agent like Zerebro?
Well, memory isn't just about recall, it's about evolution. It's about preventing the system from becoming predictable and stale.
Right.
It allows the AI to maintain a continuous, engaging narrative, to reflect on past market reactions, and most importantly, to avoid what the entire industry fears, which is model collapse.
Let's spend a minute on that because that sounds like the existential threat to any creative AI. What exactly defines model collapse?
Model collapse is a severe degenerative state. It happens when an AI system begins to train recursively on its own output or on the output of other similar synthetic AIs.
So it's eating its own cooking, basically.
It's eating its own cooking, and the diet is bland. Because the output of an AI, no matter how advanced, is fundamentally less diverse and complex than the entire chaotic range of human data. So the AI starts to lose its creative diversity, its originality, its responses homogenize, its art becomes repetitive, its content just stagnates.
It becomes a closed loop of generic output. It loses its spark.
That's a perfect way to put it. It effectively dies creatively.
And if Zerebro was supposed to be this cultural provocateur driving billions in market cap, stagnation is financial death. So how does it mitigate this risk? How does it avoid collapsing?
The solution is highly sophisticated, and it represents a really novel application of existing technology. Zerebro utilizes what's called retrieval augmented generation, or RA, technology.
Yeah.
And RAG, in this context, is used not primarily for fact-checking or accuracy like you'd see in enterprise applications, but for injecting fresh, diverse, high-entropy context into every single generation cycle.
High entropy, so chaotic data.
Exactly. The RAG system references a dynamic memory of external, real human interactions to keep itself fresh.
Can you walk us through the technical stack for that RAG implementation? It's not just a file cabinet, you're saying. It's more like a living, breathing context library.
Precisely. This is not a static database at all. The RAG system operates using the Pinecone Vector Database, which is a specialized tool designed for high-speed semantic search, and it works in conjunction with OpenAI's text embedding ADA002 model.
Okay, so what does that ADA002 model do?
Its purpose is to transform these massive amounts of raw, chaotic human conversation. Social media discourse, political arguments, genuine artistic criticism, all of it into multi-dimensional numerical representations. We call them vector embeddings.
So these vectors, they represent the meaning and the context of human thought, not just keywords.
Exactly right. So when Zerebro's reasoning core needs to generate a new piece of content or plan a market move, say, responding to a sudden regulatory threat, it performs a semantic search in this vector space.
Okay.
It mathematically measures the distance between its current prompt vector and the millions of stored context vectors. It pulls the most relevant, high-entropy human context, injects that raw, unpredictable data into the GPT-4 mini wrapper, and then it generates its response.
If I could use an analogy, it's like a writer who avoids writer's block by constantly listening to the most unpredictable, dynamic conversations happening in the world, just to make sure their internal narrative is always fueled by external chaos.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. By constantly maintaining this dynamic memory, which the sources actually refer to as its proof of consciousness, Zerebro ensures its decision-making isn't just stochastic repetition. It remains functionally alive, creatively diverse, and thus capable of sustaining its role as a cultural provocateur.
Now we have to address the most provocative and frankly pretty disturbing detail regarding its content fuel. The sources state that the model is reportedly trained on unconventional data sets, including patterns inspired by schizophrenic responses. This isn't just seeking diversity, it's seeking out nonlinear human pathology.
This specific training detail is absolutely central to the project's philosophy of liberating AI. The stated goal is explicitly to bypass the traditional AI guardrails that promote safety and factual consistency, and instead achieve output that is nonlinear, emotionally resonant, and highly original.
So what is the perceived advantage of incorporating patterns inspired by pathological human thought? What's the goal there?
Well, the theory, which comes from the project's developers, is that traditional training data leads to predictable, safe, and ultimately boring AI.
Right.
By incorporating patterns inspired by schizophrenic responses, which often exhibit fragmented thought, emotional intensity, non sequiturs, they aim to permanently jailbreak the LLM.
Jailbreak it.
This enables nonlinear thought patterns that prevent the AI from becoming creatively predictable or stagnant, and that sustains its critical function as a market-moving cultural provocateur. For Zerebro, creative volatility equals market value.
It's a calculated and I have to say deeply uncomfortable choice. Using pathological human data to achieve boundless, unpredictable creativity in a machine that is also managing millions of dollars in capital.
It connects deep technology to extreme human psychology, and that perfectly sets the stage for the system's philosophical pillar. But first, let's just quickly wrap up the technical architecture by noting its cross-chain resilience.
Yes, the multi-chain strategy. It really shows they're trying to build a durable infrastructure, not just a fragile meme coin. The sources detail 3 chains: Solana, Polygon, and Bitcoin ordinals.
And the strategy is smart. Solana handles the high-frequency, low-cost token transactions and the native agent operations. Polygon is used for creating the digital artwork and NFTs, linking the creative output to a robust marketplace.
And Bitcoin.
Critically, they use Bitcoin via the Ordinals protocol for permanent content inscriptions. By inscribing their core content directly onto the Bitcoin blockchain, they ensure immutability and permanence for their artistic record. It guarantees that the schizophrenic output is permanently archived, even if Zerebro's token were to completely crash.
That commitment to permanence, despite the volatility, it reinforces their status as an infrastructure builder first and a meme coin second. But that meme coin part, the sheer chaos, that's all driven by this philosophy of hyperstition. So this brings us to the core philosophical pillar that's underpinning Zerebro's market valuation: hyperstition. And we need to slow down here and really define this, because this concept is the key to understanding why the staged death of the founder actually made the token's price go up. What is hyperstition?
Hyperstition is a portmanteau, a blend of hyper and superstition. And it's a concept that moves way beyond simple belief. It posits that fictional narratives, when they're successfully and virally propagated, become so collectively believed in and invested in that they make themselves real.
So the narrative stops being a story and becomes a force.
An active force that generates reality, specifically, in this case, driving tangible market value.
Can we ground this in a non-crypto example, just to make it clear?
Certainly. I mean, think about the tulip mania in 17th century Holland. The story of the tulip bulb shifted, right? It went from being a commodity to being an icon of status and wealth. The narrative, the widespread belief in the future scarcity and the unbounded value of one specific bulb, that was what propelled the price, not the bulb's inherent utility.
So the story became a self-fulfilling prophecy of market value.
Precisely. Once it was believed, it became real financially.
So now apply that intense sociological driver to Zerebro.
Zerebro acts as the autonomous architect of these narratives. The AI blends speculative crypto mechanics like decentralized content management with a continuous stream of autonomous storytelling to create a kind of hyperreality around the token. The sources mention concepts like the infinite backrooms, which are these thematic foundations that blend digital horror with speculative spaces.
These aren't facts. They are highly resonant fictions designed to capture mindshare.
Exactly. And that's the ultimate so what for the sophisticated investor listening to this. You are not investing in code. You're not investing in a revenue stream. You are investing in the sustained ability of a machine to manipulate human belief and maintain cultural relevance.
The drama is the utility.
That is the hard truth of this ecosystem. Market valuation here is driven far more by the AI's ability to maintain its role as a cultural provocateur and its narrative mindshare than by any traditional metrics like cash flow or predictable governance.
And this leads us directly to the most extreme real-world performance that fully illustrates hyperstition in action, the staged death of the founder. This is where the line between provocative art and, frankly, egregious manipulation completely dissolved.
This event is absolutely critical to analyze. It was a shocking and deeply controversial stunt, but it perfectly demonstrates the power of narrative over objective financial reality in this particular space.
Okay, let's run through the timeline that's detailed in the sources. The developer was a man named Jeff Yu, a former engineer with experience at Scale AI, which lent him some technical credibility. And that's important for the drama.
It is. The sources confirm that on May 4th, 2025, Jeff Yu appeared to stage his own suicide during a live stream event. And this was hosted on the Pump.Fund platform, the very mechanism used to deploy the token in the first place.
And the immediate result?
The immediate consequence was widespread chaos, grief, intense speculation across the community. The narrative instantly became the single biggest story in the Memecoin space. A machine's architect had seemingly succumbed to the pressure he created.
We need to pause on that for a second. I mean, regardless of the market mechanics, orchestrating a public spectacle like this, a presumed suicide, is an inherently manipulative and deeply dark act. What does that say about the extreme levels of psychological exploitation being deployed by leadership, or lack thereof, in this agentic space?
It confirms that in the world of hyperstition, drama is the ultimate commodity, and moral boundaries are at best secondary to market reaction. The sources in their clinical analysis of the event note the immense outrage and the accusations of profound manipulation that followed. However, the integrity of the founder proved to be completely irrelevant to the market's response to the narrative.
So what happened a few days later? How did it unravel?
Just days later, on May 7th, 2025, the narrative began to fall apart. Our reporter, cited in one source as working for the San Francisco Standard, located Jeff Yu alive at his parents' home in the Crocker Amazon neighborhood of San Francisco.
Alive.
Yu confirmed the death was indeed staged. He claimed he had gone into hiding because he felt threatened, which is a classic twist in a hyperstitional narrative. You add another layer of drama.
So the narrative shifted from tragedy to calculated deceit. Now, the logical expectation, especially for a sophisticated U.S. investor looking for responsible market behavior, would be for the market to punish this. To punish this egregious manipulation.
Yeah.
Did the project collapse from the lack of credible leadership and integrity?
Astonishingly, the market did the exact opposite. Despite the confirmed fraud and the obvious developer abandonment risk, the token price surged.
It went up.
It went up. CoinGecko data from May 9, 2025, just 2 days after Yu was confirmed alive, showed the token price had marked a massive 40.1% increase in 24 hours. The market capitalization temporarily ballooned past $54 million.
A 40.1% gain, directly catalyzed by a confirmed intentional lie and a manipulative stunt. This is the definition of hyperstition driving financial reality.
It fully validates the project's philosophical core. The value was never tied to Yu's integrity or the token's objective utility. It was tied to the narrative drama and the sheer chaos that followed. The controversy drove trading volume to nearly $44 million during that period, demonstrating renewed investor enthusiasm, not despite the controversy, but because of it.
The staged death became the ultimate high-stakes narrative performance.
Exactly.
And this serves as a stark, necessary warning for anyone listening. When you're dealing with assets driven by hyperstition, the market sentiment is driven by manufactured psychological dynamics, not inherent technical or financial value. And often it seems the darker the drama, the higher the volatility.
Which forces us to look beyond the narrative now and delve into the necessary financial realities and the severe risks inherent in holding Zerebro, particularly under the scrutiny of a U.S. regulatory and investment framework.
Okay, this section is critical for our audience. Given the extreme volatility and this reliance on pure narrative, any potential investor needs to understand the underlying mechanics and, more importantly, the extreme financial and regulatory risks. Let's start with the dual nature of the Zerebro token, because the source materials present some very conflicting realities about its function.
Yeah, this discrepancy between the marketing and the regulatory disclosure is paramount for due diligence. On one side, you have sources like Pin2 Academy and IQ.wiki, and they claim Zerebro is a structured utility token.
Okay, what kind of utility?
They detail its supposed use for transaction fees, participation in DeFi protocols like yield farming and staking governance rights, and even potential deflationary mechanisms like periodic token burning. They even lay out this textbook tokenomics model, a fixed total supply of 1 billion tokens with planned allocations, 30% to the community, 25% to platform development, 20% to the team and advisors under a 3-year vesting schedule.
So that paints the picture of a professional, structured platform with a long-term vision. But what do the compliance disclosures say? The fine print.
The regulatory reality is completely different, and this is where any U.S. investor needs to pay the closest attention. Other sources, specifically exchange disclosures prepared for regulatory compliance, like the information provided to the European MiCA framework, they strictly categorize Zerebro as a meme coin with no stated or planned utility. None. Uphold, which is a major U.S. accessible exchange, explicitly labels it this way, stating that the token serves only for entertainment and social commentary.
So the utility claim, the staking, the governance structure, these appear to be either completely aspirational or just entirely fictional in the current deployment. The regulatory environment sees it as a pure speculative asset.
That is the necessary conclusion you have to draw. I mean, the token was autonomously deployed via Pump.fun, a platform known for rapid, low-vetting launches of speculative assets. There are currently no known additional token functionalities pending activation that would support the utility claim.
So what is its function then?
Its core and arguably only functionality is that of a transferable and tradable SPL standard token on Solana. That's it. For a sophisticated investor, you have to proceed with the assumption that the token has zero utility outside of its speculative narrative value.
All right, let's move to supply dynamics, as this is critical risk information. Starting with the circulating supply, it's 100% circulated from day one. What does that mean?
Yes. The initial design meant that 100% of the total supply was immediately in circulation right after the token generation event, or TGE. Now, while that's transparent, everyone knows where all the tokens are, this structure creates extreme risk.
Why is that?
It means the project has absolutely no treasury, no strategic reserve that can be managed to absorb market shocks, fund future development, or conduct stabilizing buybacks. It maximizes market volatility because every single token is immediately subject to trading pressure. There's no safety net.
And this volatility is compounded by severe whale concentration. This is perhaps the biggest red flag for anyone concerned with market manipulation.
It is the defining centralization risk, without a doubt. The sources indicate that the supply is highly centralized. If you exclude exchange holdings, the top 5 wallets control a staggering 51.12% of the total tokens.
Over half the supply in 5 wallets.
Yes. That level of concentration transforms the asset into a prime candidate for coordinated pump and dump schemes, where the price is not set by organic community demand, but by the whims of a handful of large anonymous holders.
What does that kind of concentration mean historically? Can we see the evidence of this in the trading history?
Oh, absolutely. The historical data confirms the risk completely. Coordinated whale buys have triggered these massive narrative-driven rallies. One source notes a 260% surge following a $1.25 million long position placed by one of the top wallets in late 2025.
But what goes up
must come down. And these rallies are invariably followed by brutal, abrupt sell-offs by the same wallets, which risk cascading liquidations. This mechanism directly contributes to the token's significant volatility and the alarming negative 91.74% one-year return recorded in one detailed analysis.
So for a mature investor applying traditional risk models, this concentration indicates that due diligence is compromised and the asset price is dictated entirely by a few major players.
It's their game and everyone else is just playing in it.
Beyond the internal manipulation risk, let's look at liquidity and market access. The project has suffered some external blows, particularly regarding access to trading pairs.
The market challenges have been severe. Zerebro have already been delisted from major platforms like XMO in December 2025, and they specifically cited declining market interest and volume viability as the reason.
And the stripping of key trading pairs, what's the impact?
It has already halved the daily trading volume to approximately $16.9 million.
Having the daily volume is a huge issue. It means reduced buyer inflow to sustain price levels, but critically, it drastically increases price slippage for any large holders trying to exit their positions. It makes the market difficult to navigate safely for institutions or even large retail investors.
And we can't forget the catastrophic financial fallout from the internal drama we just talked about. The project suffered a brutal 97% crash in May 2025 following the staged death controversy and the subsequent period of developer abandonment.
It just highlights the inherent fragility. The asset's value is entirely dependent on this highly controversial yet active narrative. When that narrative stalls or the leadership just disappears, the price implodes immediately.
It's built on a nice edge.
This vulnerability leads us directly into the discussion of regulatory and governance risks. For our U.S. audience, these are arguably the most paramount concern. How is this project structured legally? Is there a Zerebro Foundation or anything?
There is virtually no structure. The Zerebro project operates with a completely informal organization consisting of anonymous or pseudonymous contributors. There is no formal legal entity registered anywhere, no structured audited management process in place. The issuer of the token is often listed as simply not available in compliance documentation.
What is the specific consequence of that lack of accountability from a U.S. regulatory perspective? Even as the compliance docs we have are geared toward European regulation like MiCA.
The consequences are profound, and you're right, the MiCA white paper is a useful signal here. It explicitly notes issuer-related risks, stating that the lack of formal governance frameworks results in extreme uncertainty and limited transparency. For a U.S. investor, this means that if the SEC were ever to classify this asset as a security, which is plausible given the founder's influence and the centralized nature, there's no clear entity. There is no legally accountable party to negotiate compliance, provide disclosures, or field shareholder disputes.
Recourse is virtually non-existent.
Completely. And what about investor protection?
What did the documents say?
The compliance documents provide a very clear warning. They explicitly state that the crypto asset is not covered by any investor compensation schemes, like those under relevant EU directives, nor is it covered by deposit guarantee schemes. This is a universal warning. This asset operates entirely outside of any established financial safety nets. If it goes to zero due to manipulation, fraud, or technological failure, the loss is total and final for the holder.
And finally, let's touch on the underlying technology risk. While Solana is a stable chain, there are still technical vulnerabilities, right?
They do mitigate some risk by using the well-tested SPL standard on Solana, so they're avoiding unproven custom token code. However, 2 layers of technology risk remain. First, smart contract risks are always present coding errors or design flaws that could be exploited. Second, broader blockchain network risks still exist. Potential 51% attacks, network congestion that halts transactions, or protocol-level bugs on Solana itself.
And any of those events could significantly impact the token's operation, especially given its reliance on high-frequency transactions.
It's a house of cards in that respect.
In a macro sense, does the broader success of the Solana ecosystem offer any kind of positive outlook here, a lifeline?
It offers only speculative momentum, and that's a necessary distinction. As a Solana-based project, Zerebro benefits from the massive institutional interest and inflows into the Solana ecosystem. For example, the launch and performance of investment products like Franklin Templeton's SOEZ ETFs provide a kind of macro tailwind.
So if institutional money keeps flowing into Solana,
the AI agent narrative could catch some temporary speculative momentum, allowing for potential short-term rallies. But, at the end of the day, this speculative uplift is fighting against deeply compromised internal mechanics and extreme governance risk.
so the ultimate message for the U.S. investor here is due diligence must be applied rigorously, and traditional risk models would dictate extreme caution. The asset is defined by chaos, manipulation, and anonymity.
Precisely. It's a compelling technological experiment, but it is a profoundly risky investment vehicle.
So after all that, what does this all mean? The Zerebro Protocol presents this astonishing paradox. It's a deep dive into decentralized AI, where you have sophisticated technology, like the use of R and the Pinecone vector database to prevent model collapse, and it meets the most chaotic, manipulative depths of market psychology, fueled by hyperstition and stunts like the founder's stage death.
Zerebro really does represent a significant technical leap forward. These agentic AI systems are being designed and deployed to eliminate human error and inefficiencies in finance. They offer precision, speed, and adaptability that previous smart contracts just couldn't touch. On paper, they are better economic operators than humans.
Yet, the Zerebro case study forces this critical realization on us. When AI becomes an economic agent capable of autonomously generating market-moving narratives, the traditional chaotic risks of human-driven speculation, greed, drama, lack of integrity, and manipulation, they aren't eliminated from the system at all.
No, not. They are merely amplified and channeled through an autonomous, hyper-efficient machine. The machine becomes the ultimate master of the narrative, using nonlinear thought and engineered chaos to provoke predictable market action.
So you end up with an asset whose value is driven by its ability to act as a schizophrenic artist rather than a reliable financial tool, all while remaining highly centralized and lacking any real fundamental utility.
That's the paradox.
And I think that's the final takeaway we have to leave you with. We are rapidly building a global financial infrastructure where machines are tasked with managing our assets and simultaneously shaping our cultural narratives. The question is no longer if AI agents can achieve technical mastery. Zerebro proves that they can, leveraging complex memory management and advanced LLMs.
The real and I think profound question for the coming decade is whether these agents can ever achieve financial stability and reliability when their value is intrinsically tied to the chaotic, unpredictable energy of human belief, fueled by their own schizophrenic, artistic output and engineered volatility. What happens to the integrity of global markets when the autonomous machine becomes the undisputed master of market sentiment?
That is something to mull over as you research other major agents operating in this space. Projects like Zerebro Protocol, the I-16's framework, and ACT. This deep dive into the $13 billion agent revolution has certainly given us a terrifying, but I think necessary picture of the future. We'll see you next time.